Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Roth, intuitive healer and founder of Intuitive Encounters, and welcome back to my channel. This is where we explore the powerful intersections of intuition, healing, and liberation. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to our guest, Jessa Frances. Jessa is a holistic life coach, trauma-informed yoga teacher, shadow work coach, author, and alcohol-free beverage consultant. She's the founder of the Caim Circle. Did I get that right? Every time I see the spelling, I struggle.
It's a Gaelic Celtic word and it's pronounced Kiem.
Yum. Okay. It's spelled C-A-I-M.
Yes.
Pronounced PM Circle. All right. Also as well as the founder of Untoxicated, where she supports others through holistic healing, conscious rituals, and nervous system cares. Jessa works Jessa's work blends somatic practices, memoir writing, and mindset tools to help people reconnect with their truth, rewrite old stories, and live in deep alignment with their soul. She's also a featured presenter in the upcoming Freedom Era Summit, where her session, Shedding Old Skins, the spiritual power of shadow work to reclaim your truth, will guide us into the sacred process of integrating denied emotions and breaking free from old narratives that no longer serve us. That was a mouthful. You have an amazing bio, and so I can't wait to just dive in and talk to you more about all of it. So welcome, Jessa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, thank you. I'm super happy to be here and chat with you today, Jamie. I'm
And
honored.
we talked for a few minutes before we got online, and I just love that we were sharing kind of the same headspace of just we're here, we're making things work, we're moving and grooving, we're just kind of in our feels. And I kind of had a feeling that would be the way, right? Because when we connect, it's so synergetic. So I love that you're here with me on this kind of a day where we're just sort of everywhere all at once and nowhere at the same time. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. I don't know if you, um, like whether or not you follow like astrology and all of that stuff. But the energy that is the past moon cycle has been thick.
Yeah.
It's just there's been meaning that there's been a lot to navigate, and there's been a lot of shedding of old skins. There's a lot of rebirth happening, and we're moving forward in like this new paradigm
Right.
where truly we are like pioneers
Yep.
of a completely new era in a way that even our forefathers were not. We can't trust the weather anymore. Seasons are kind of out. Like we
For
don't know what's
real.
what anymore, and then this new change in AI is it's going to completely and radically change the way we see ourselves, the way we see ourselves in community, and um, the way we're going to continue to show up in the world. So we're just navigating a lot, and then you put on like the normal things, right? Friends, family, children, relationships, your job, if you're trying to start your own career or live this aligned path, and all
Right.
of the things. There is so much to navigate, right? And the only thing we can do is really truly take care of and love on our nervous systems because they are wigged out.
Yeah.
They're wigged out.
I want to make a comment really quick, and then I want to talk to you actually about your nervous system work and its important role.
Mm.
Um, but you're reminding me that I woke up this morning. It's been kind of a long day of a lot of different weaving things together. And so you reminded me that I woke up this morning with the most intense feeling that everything was just fake, like nothing was real. Like I was questioning everything, every person I knew, every relationship I have, like what's actually genuine, what's actually authentic, what's actually real. It was just this very bizarre moment. And I texted one of my besties and I was like, everything feels fake and disingenuine today. What is this energy? And she goes, that's funny because I feel like a month ago I texted you the very same thing. It really freaked you out because you were like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh my gosh, you totally did. So it is, it's so much. And I don't know that everything's actually fake, but I do think it ties into what you were saying. Everything is different and or changing. And so we are losing our footing in what is real anymore. I mean, when we can't even trust the weather or the weather forecast, like I've noticed a change in sunrises and sunsets. I can't tell you how many times I've looked out and been like, something is different. And I've not been able to pinpoint it. Like, but there have been many, many times where I'm just like, that doesn't seem, it's not wrong, but it doesn't seem right either. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It really is just everything feels like new and uncharted territory.
It really does, which I guess is kind of a beautiful thing if we think about it, but it's also
Yeah.
intimidating and it's uncomfortable. We
Yeah.
like our sameness, we like our routines, we like to know what's going on.
Hmm.
Um, so let's circle back around because you mentioned, the one thing we can do is nervous system work. And I know that a lot of your work does center around nervous system support. So
Hmm.
tell us more about why tending to the body and the nervous system is essential, especially if you're doing deep spiritual work, you're trying to figure out your footing again in this unknown fake space, um, or emotional work like shadow exploration, which we'll touch on some more too. But
Yeah.
why are you so fired up about the nervous system work?
I have just found and have learned because all my yoga teacher training, or most of my yoga teacher training, has all been done with in a trauma informed educational container where I've had to learn a lot about the nervous system in itself.
Right.
And so everything that I have learned when it comes to taking care of and tending to my students, my clients, is making sure that they feel safe, right? And that is what a lot of people don't quite understand about the nervous system. Our nervous system is ancient.
Yeah.
It is biologically hardwired, thousands of years old. We are progressing at this really quick, fast rate in the world, right? And we are now in this age of rapid information, even
So
more
much
so than we've ever
nonstop.
been.
Yes. Or
And
I like to point out, sorry, let me interrupt. I like to
yeah, go
point out
ahead.
where, we're living in a world where we now have not only a lot of information, but everywhere, all over the world. Whereas back in the day, you only knew your town, maybe another town over what was happening. If there was a war happening in another part of the world, you weren't privy to it. You certainly weren't seeing visual experience of it.
Right,
So yeah, I mean, it's
right,
intense.
right. And so our ancient hardwired nervous systems, they like repetition, like you said. They like feeling safe, and they feel safe when things are normal and what is normal to us, right? That's why it really likes routine.
Mhm.
And that's why we get stuck in our patterns, and even patterns that we don't like, we end up staying with them, and that we regulate to them, and we find
Yes,
this weird baseline,
yes,
and we have a hard time getting out of that, even though we
right.
know in our mind cognitively it's not helpful for us, but we
It's
stay
toxic,
there,
right?
right? Because our nervous system feels safe, right? So, what do we need to do when we do any sort of change, which we're doing every day, all the time,
Constantly, constantly,
any
right?
recently? And if you are an entrepreneur or starting your own business or leaving a relationship or making any change in your life, your nervous system is going to be like, this is
Right.
not safe. This is new uncharted territory. I'm not okay. And so, nervous system work is you constantly, lovingly working yourself back into a sense of safety where you are reminding your nervous system, I'm okay.
Okay.
This is okay.
I'm safe.
We're okay. We're safe.
Hmm.
We're
Hmm.
safe. It's not the lions and tigers and bears that are chasing us. It's emails.
Yeah. It feels the
It's the
same. That's the
news.
thing, is it feels the same. People feel
Yes.
like lions and tigers are still chasing them.
Right. Well, because your nervous system, that ancient nervous system,
Knowing.
is
Right.
still reacting in the same way.
Right.
Just because you're not running away, right? We have fight and we have flight, and freeze, right? Those are the most common that people
Right.
think of, right? But So what's normal is we try to run away, but we can't, you know. So we're stuck in the situation, we're stuck in the meeting, we're stuck in the pattern. And we can't fight anymore because it's wrong. It's wrong to fight. So that fight and that flight was very, very common, very typical behavior as a way of, you know, escaping
And protecting yourself,
and
right?
protecting ourselves. That's almost obsolete anymore.
Right.
Right? And so what are we left with? We're left with two, actually, not just freeze, but fawn.
Right.
And fawning is the people pleasing. It is the way to like navigate the situation with kindness.
Yes.
And you know, we make ourselves small and we
Overly generous.
yes,
Take care of
yes,
everybody else's needs.
right. Or we just shut down completely and we
Right.
kind of numb out and we isolate.
Right.
That right there is the most of the people you know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and when we do that and we don't actually get to a place where we're communicating with the nervous system, I know that that was scary, but we can calm down, we can move back into rest and digest. We can breathe and feel safe again, right? And how often, like I know with you with clients, you'll be like, I want everybody to take a big deep inhale in, soften your shoulders, soften your jaw, and everybody's like, wow, I didn't even realize my jaw
Yeah.
was tight. I didn't
Right.
even realize my
Didn't
jaw.
realize I was like
I
this
didn't
or like
realize my
this.
shoulders were up
Yeah.
around my ears.
Yeah.
Because that's our baseline.
Yeah.
We have this baseline of being in fight or flight, right?
One of
And
my most telling things is when a client walks in and they sit down on my couch, and the clients who like sit on the very edge and they're just ready to flight. You know, they're ready to check out. I know they're like being hyper vigilant, checking out the space, but they're tense and they sit on the very edge of the couch. And one of my favorite things is as the hour goes by, or maybe it takes a couple of sessions for them to truly feel safe, then they come in, then they sit back, then they kick back, then they relax. And that's, you know, very physical indication of
yes.
someone's nervous system and how they feel coming into the space. And I'm sure you see the same with your clients and
Yeah,
within your
no,
yoga classes. And I'm sure you can tell in yoga, there's no way, because I see it in my Goddess Flow classes. I'm sure you can tell when people walk in and they're in some kind of protect mode.
it's one of my favorite things in the world, and what's part of the reason I love this work so much is there's something so magical about being able to soothe people's nervous systems
For real.
and being able to see their energetic shift. You
Agree.
know, seeing them come in tight and stressed and like all balled up, you know, intense, and then to have them walk out like,
Yeah, unwind. It's beautiful to see people unwind.
yes, it really is. But so that's the thing, right? That's what we need more than anything else. I mean, no matter what you're navigating, I don't care if it's massive grief or, you know, severe loneliness or navigation of a new job, a new relationship, a new career, or whatever it is you are pushing forward in your life. I can guarantee you what you need is nervous system regulation.
Yeah.
It is the first step before you do any of the next things, right? And
Right.
we go to therapy and we do shadow work and we do all of this learning, right? We're in this age of information. We're listening to podcasts. We're reading these articles. We're trying to figure out what's real and what's not, what's right and wrong, and how to make the right next step and all this stuff. And we're cognitively figuring things out, but we have to bring that awareness into the body.
Yes.
And that's how we're going to make, you know, I call my work shadow work integration. I like, yes, shadow work, but shadow work integration is the only way it's going to make any impact,
Right.
right? So you have to take this new information and love and soothe your nervous system into a new way, into
Right.
new habits. And you
Rewire it.
know, we're And we've been fighting with ourselves like, oh, I want to build this new habit in 21 days, and we're like at war with
Right.
ourselves.
Right. Right.
And that's not the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is more love, it's more compassion, it's more kindness as you push forward, as you do the work. I'm not saying, go take a nap. There's a big, huge difference. Like people talk about rest, oh, make sure you're resting, make sure you're resting. And people think, oh, well, that means like lounging and watching
And
TV or
scrolling or
sleeping.
right.
No,
They
it's,
just think it means stopping physical movements,
yeah.
which it can mean. I love me some naps. I mean, I take naps on a regular
Oh, yeah.
basis, but it's not just the physical stopping.
Yes,
The
so
mind slowing down. It's the
it's restoration. I
oh
like
yeah.
that. I don't say rest. I said restoration.
Oh, that's so perfect. So much more poignant.
Yeah, and if you have ever taken like a restorative yoga class,
Yes.
right? Like, what are we doing, right? We are deeply restoring the mind, the body, the spirit, and
Right.
that is the goal in meditation. That's the goal in breath work. That's what we get that's different with an intuitive coach, right?
Right.
Rather than, and people ask me like, oh, well, I'm already seeing a therapist. Great, yes,
Yep.
but just,
And also, are
and
you
also,
dropping into the body somatically?
yeah,
Are you touching in with your spirit?
yeah, like because the therapists are gonna tell you, okay, we've talked through all this. You need to do some, maybe take a breathwork class, tap into community, go to yoga. They're gonna give you this advice to go next, right? And that's kind of what I think of myself, is I'm like a therapist's best friend. You go from the therapist to me. Like we're gonna
Collaboration
take
of
this
total
and then
self-care. Yes. And
yes.
I'm actually finding that more and more therapists are recommending energy work and somatic pieces. Like I have clients coming to me on more of a regular basis, and doctors too, actually,
Mm,
specifying for nervous system work. That's not as big, but I am hearing that therapists are recognizing you need these other pieces. One of the things that I find so intriguing about you is you have this, big bio, but you weave together things like yoga, shadow work, writing, and even alcohol-free beverage spaces.
mm.
And they seem like they're different threads, but they actually connect in a bigger picture of like healing and sovereignty. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. My favorite topic ever.
Yay.
So it's interesting, my story in itself. I have a master's degree in creative writing with a focus in memoir. I started writing my own memoirs and helping other people journey through their stories, and kind of
Oh,
like
that's so
deep
neat.
dove, yeah, into this realm of storytelling and the sharing of your personal story. And
Yeah.
I found that really essentially that's what shadow work is. It is like actually understanding your money story, your body story, your story with your, whatever situation. And one of those things, right, is what we're consuming, right? Is so like we have an alcohol story.
Oh, yeah.
There is something about you can tell me, okay, well, I grew up with or without alcohol, or I grew up, and alcohol was a regular part of my life as a teenager, or it wasn't. I never even touched it until,
Right.
we have these stories,
Yeah.
right? And so I started with memoir, and that's how I found my way into shadow work. And I wanted to start putting on retreats that were that were nature based and writing based. And I was trying to start up a business and just making my way in the world. And I got hired as a copywriter and a distribution manager for a non-alcoholic bottle shop. And I was like, what is this? This is new.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of alcohol-free tequila,
Right.
alcohol-free, I'd heard of O'Doul's, but I had never
Right.
heard
Yeah,
about
right.
the name, right?
Totally.
And next,
Although we should give a shout out, like they're the OGs of
yeah,
alcohol free,
they
right?
are the OGs.
They saw this how many years ago, Like,
Right. Yeah, very, very happy for Smo
very
Duel.
innovative.
But yeah, so at first I was like, oh, this would be really cool as a part of a retreat. I was just like doing that. And then I started researching and I started researching more and more and more, and my little journalist self was interviewing all of the brands. And so there's a new realm of functional beverages, and I don't particularly mean THC. When I like to, my particular brand of functional drinks are your adaptogenics.
Mine too.
So,
They're my favorite.
right, an adaptogen is a botanical that helps you adapt to stress. So,
Right.
one of the most well-known common ones out there is ashwagandha
Right.
or reishi mushroom. Like those are probably the two most popular. And so there are these ingredients that help you adapt to stress. And then that led down another rabbit hole, and that led down another rabbit hole where I like started learning more and more about, okay, well, it helps me lower my cortisol. What's my cortisol? It's my stress hormone. And that helps me boost my serotonin. What's my serotonin? I started learning about the hormones, and I started learning about the nervous system. And just more and more I started learning that, because we would have people come in and talk about, oh, I really want to drink less, and these are really cool because I can drink this elixir, this cool curious elixir or something, instead of a beer or instead of
Yes.
a cocktail. And I realized, okay, these are tools to help people live a more conscious life.
Yeah.
And this was like, and it just, next thing I know, it was one of the most popular sayings out there is, oh, I'm a mindful drinker.
Yes.
And I said, well, there's no mindful drinking without mindful thinking.
Touche.
and and I started it just all ended up blending together. Next thing I know, I've got all these 700 hours of yoga training
Yeah.
and all of this work done.
Skills.
And
Excellent skills.
so yeah, I like to do events and I like to do retreats, and now I've got the shadow work and the writing, I've got the nature, I've got the yoga, and everybody needs a drink in their hand, like sitting
Yep.
around the bonfire. And
Yep.
instead of, you know, when we're socializing and we're celebrating and we're feeling good, that's when we will, all of a sudden we start craving like
Yeah. The water
glass of
doesn't cut
wine.
it. You're not like cheers with water,
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
and by the way, anytime anything's called elixir, like I'm in. Like there's just it's like the witchy self, my ancestral self, where we made
Yeah.
elixirs and potions. Like any of the functional beverages that have that slapped on it, I'm like, yes, an elixir. Like I just feel it. Those-
I'm right. It's even like this beautiful mouthful, like elixir. I love
yes, it's so good.
it.
And I really like when they have lemon balm and theanine in them. Those are kind of, or magnesium. Those are some of my faves.
Oh yeah, no,
Really give me the chill
ditto.
vibe.
Ditto. So I really, I started just diving in there and learning more and more, and I was realizing that if I'm gonna hold these spaces and not pass out, water or soda, these tools are also helping us. And what do you notice? People are like having a little bit of a little war happening, right? Where they're saying, like, well, I kind of want a glass of wine, or I kind of want this beer, or I'd rather have a champagne. Why?
Yeah.
And you start asking yourself why behind, like, what is the story behind your drive, and you realize that you've been programmed. You realize that this stuff has been glamorized, that
Yep.
you've been told and taught that this is the way to socialize and celebrate, that
Yep.
this is the thing that's going to calm and relax you, when it's actually not. It's
Yep.
actually legitimately poisoning you.
It really is.
And
Alcohol is terrible.
yeah, and it's a depressant.
Yes.
It instead of this adaptogenic elixir that is
Yes.
lowering your cortisol, it is
Yes.
actually boosting it,
Yep.
right? And so you have this, talking about things that are what's real and what's not, you have this lie that has been fed to you, right? And it makes you have to question your story.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you have to question. And that's the thing is with shadow work, that's all it is. It's
Yep.
you getting curious. It's you questioning your why behind things. And and when you have like this bad habit that, oh my gosh, I don't know why I just keep telling this person yes when I really mean no. You know, finding out your why behind things, finding
Yep.
out what story that reason is attached to, and where it is associated with, I almost can guarantee you it's from a point in time in your life, from an experience where your nervous system locked up and
Yep.
was never able to release.
Yep.
And
So do you
that's
have a, oh, sorry, go
we
ahead.
really, no, and that's when I take you and I say, okay, there it is. There's that knotted up spot from
Yep.
you being 6 years old.
Yep.
Guess what? We can still release it. It's
Yep.
beautiful.
Yep. I have a little story to share. When I first embarked on nervous system work myself, and began the journey of healing for myself with that, I recognized, of course, that I had a story within my nervous system. I have more than one, I'm sure, but I had one that was the most common, and it comes up when there's anytime I perceive conflict. Perceive is the key word there, right?
Hmm.
So I perceive conflict, and I'm an extremely confident person, and I'm actually outwardly very comfortable in conflict. I don't like it, but I'm able to do it. I'm able to meet us in these hard spaces and have the hard conversations, and I prefer it. However, internally, I'm having this whole nervous system experience that's going on. Like, my heart starts to palpitate.
Hmm.
The kind of butterfly or rocks in the stomach type of feeling. Uh, I can tell my adrenaline gets going, which is the heart directly. And so, anyways, as I started my nervous system journey and healing, um, I had a moment where I was perceiving that I was in conflict with a very good friend. The thing is we were grown women. It really wasn't conflict. It was more just we weren't agreeing on the topic. And it actually had nothing to do with me. It was something that I had confronted her with. And she came back in disagreement, and that's when my system flared up. But I had been checking in for a while now with my system, so I felt it, I heard it. And so, and we're just even via text. That's the thing about being perceived conflict. Like, we weren't even in person. Like, we could have both just walked away from the conversation or, stopped the texting. But in this moment, I'm like, but I'm still texting back, but I'm like, what are you telling me? This is a good friend. We're going to work through this. It's really not that serious. It's not a big issue. It's not going to end our friendship. It's not even about me. So who cares? Like, I'm going through the inner dialogues. I'm like, what's the message? What's the message? And then suddenly I heard the voice. I heard the wisdom of my nervous system, and it said, you can't take my power away from me. And I
Hmm.
realized that one of my nervous system stories was this idea that people had the power to take away my power. And that was the moment I was able to just really like start to work with that narrative and kind of
Hmm.
change and shift things. So
Right.
I'm totally in agreement with you. Nervous system work
Hmm.
is huge and powerful and very, very transformative. Um,
Hmm.
I'd like to know more about shadow work with you, though. And do you have a definition? Because I definitely feel like I don't know if I've ever solidified like how to just say like this is what shadow work is, like give it a nice boxed definition, and maybe there isn't one, but I'd be curious to know if you how you
Yeah.
offhand like first describe it to people. You're like, what the hell is
Yeah.
shadow work?
Absolutely. And first off, that is a beautiful story and such a good example of what it means to rewrite your story. Like people say that all the time, like, oh, you can rewrite your story, but that right there, that's a beautiful
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Um, so making the unconscious conscious, boom. That is
Right.
what shadow work is.
Okay.
It's like the quickest way for me to explain. Like making the unconscious what is not even like you don't realize conscious. Like I would um sometimes I think of it as this, like we don't see the dark side of the moon. Doesn't
Right.
mean the dark side of the moon isn't there,
Right.
right? It's
Right.
it's what we don't what it is that we're not seeing,
Mhm.
right? And what it is that has been repressed and that we're not really paying attention to.
Right.
So that's really the shortest, easiest way of uh
Describing it. I think that's
describing it.
fantastic. That's probably one of the best ways I've ever heard, honestly, like one of the best definitions or whatever you will, title to it, because it's a kind of a tricky one, I feel like, to describe. So that's great. Like, perfect. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're a yoga teacher, and if you've ever studied the 8 limbs of yoga, there's the very first 2 limbs are the yamas and niyamas. And
Mhm.
one of the most well-known niyamas is something called svayaya, and that's self-study. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's another beautiful way to see it. It's just getting curious about yourself.
Hmm.
Like I said, and it's asking yourself why, because that's how shadow work is done. That's how you make the unconscious conscious.
Hmm.
You just start asking questions. And people can get a little confused on what questions to ask. And my favorite one is just be that annoying little 3-year-old. Why?
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, really, it's the best kind of rabbit trailing, right? So instead of rabbit trailing into something you found online and deep digging into some whatever you suddenly want to research, it's
Hmm.
researching yourself, basically, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
the Freedom Era Summit is really about breaking cycles of silence, shame, conditioning, roles we were given that we're coming to realize are not liberating to us, inner narratives and dialogues. It has to do with women in identity shifts for any number of reasons: loss, divorce, hormone changes, cycle changes. There's all kinds of reasons we can go into an identity shift. So how do you see shadow work specifically empowering women to not just heal individually, but also to contribute? Well, let's start there. How do you see shadow work helping women heal through identity shifts and cycle breaking, silence, shame, things like that?
Yeah, no, that's a really beautiful question. So, I mean, there are so many things that we can immediately think of as a woman that are holding us back, certain patterns and behaviors, like what we have been taught to be a good woman, for
For sure.
example,
For sure.
right? You immediately, your brain is like, okay, I have been
The
taught
list.
that
Yes.
yeah, I that I need to be quiet, that I need to take
Dress a certain
care, to
way.
nourish,
Yeah.
to support, like you're like this backbone. Like all these things that whatever, and it comes up different for everybody, right? We all have these your own personal story around this. And so when you start uncovering that story and you start recognizing that you have these patterns and behaviors, um, and that they're tied to shame and guilt, right? That what do? They unfortunately cause this inner sense of self-betrayal,
Ooh,
right? When we are constantly people pleasing and freezing up and not taking care of ourselves because we think we are not supposed to, or we think we should do this, or this is how I'm going to be liked or not left or not humiliated or whatever
right.
it is,
Right.
right? We're constantly betraying the self. And that's when we shut off our intuition, right? That's when we start not trusting ourselves. And all of this self betrayal turns into this broken, disconnected relationship with ourselves, and therefore, that is going to pour out. We're disconnected from everyone else because we're disconnected with ourselves. And I can just roll right into that kind of ripple effect right there
Right.
because we go from, I've been told all the time, I'm sure you have been too, is like, you can't really love someone until you love yourself. And I remember just scoffing at that. Like, I love people all the time, and I don't
Yeah.
love myself. But it really does change when you start loving yourself. It
Right.
really, like your capacity to hold someone else really is based on your capacity to honor and love yourself. It changes the game. And so this work, uh, in my most humble opinion, is absolutely imperative to the future of our world, the
Our
future of
collective liberation. That was the next question. But before you go on to that, I do want to say one caveat. I initially, when I started my healing journey and then moved on to become a healer myself, because I realized through my journey that that was what I was intended to do, as well as lead others into healing themselves. Um, I really was into that, like, you can't totally be loved or love another person unless you love yourself. And I was really deep into that for a while. And then I had a little bit of a reframe. I hear what you're saying, and I very much agree with it. And also, though, sometimes we do need someone else to step in and love us first before we can see, they sort of have to shine their light on us to show us our light. But so I don't fully agree with that sentiment anymore, that we have to love ourselves first before we can fully love another or really embrace love, because sometimes some of us need someone else to love us first. But I
Mhm.
do think that the self-love allows us to deepen into loving another person or
Mhm.
allowing love in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is definitely online with that. I had a few interesting conversations about the use of antidepressants and the use of medication and all of those things, and like this holistic world where we're trying to use the right things, and to not rely so much on big pharma,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But those medications are actually a beautiful way to kind of flip the script. It's like if you're too far down into the tunnel, you're gonna need something to at least get you to the point that you can
Yes.
see that there is a light, right? It's like, and I think that's a beautiful thing that you're saying, because having someone actually show up for you over and over, pulling you out, being there for you, showing you repeatedly you are loved, right? You are seen. And
Right.
that's why it's so important to tap into community and to find a friend, right?
Right.
That can show you that, because we have to at least see
Yeah. Get a
not
glimpse.
all darkness.
Yeah. For real.
Yes, because I mean, there's so many people, it's sad, but there's so many people that don't know anything other than the shadow.
Yeah.
They've never been on the bright side, right?
Yeah.
And just letting them all of a sudden, oh my goodness, there is another way to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that.
And I love that too. And that's a place I've actually come to as well with antidepressants. Early in my work, I was like holistic, 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 everything. I don't know if I've ever been like antidepressants per se, but I definitely probably wasn't pro them. And I've again evolved in my own self and healing and guiding people. And I'm like, wait a second, we can marry systems, we can bring the Western and the Eastern together and use the best of everything. That's one of the beautiful things about being alive now as a human. So I appreciate that perspective as well. But I do want to hear what you were going to say about, if we heal individually as women, we empower ourselves through all of these different methods you're talking about, alcohol-free lifestyles, yogic lifestyles, shadow work lifestyles. How do you feel like that contributes to collective liberation for women or humanity in general?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like to think of it as if, for example, as a child, like I saw my mother and my grandmother and my aunts all kind of beat up on themselves, right? It was like that they would praise everybody else, take care of everybody else, and then put themselves second fiddle every time. And
Right,
then just like every time they wouldn't look in the mirror because they didn't want to see their own reflection.
right,
And that was ingrained into me, right? It's understanding generational trauma,
yeah,
right? And what's happening, because you really are a beacon to those around you. And your children or the people that love you, they are going to imitate after you. They're watching. you're inspiring people whether you want to admit it or not.
Right.
Right? And
That's true. It really is.
we really are. And so I recognize that a little late, but I recognize that. I got into my 30s and I started writing my memoirs and I realized no wonder I am this way and have felt this way and have done this, right? All of a sudden I was having all these aha moments and epiphanies about why I had these behaviors, why I had this programming.
Right.
And that's beautiful in itself, right? But understanding that your program doesn't stop the program from running.
Right.
And that's when everything else comes into play. And once you start doing the actual work of integrating this information by nervous system regulation, by gradually, lovingly working your way forward, you bring everyone with you, right? My daughters, they see me looking in the mirror and I will look myself straight in the eye and tell myself I love myself. They see that.
Yep.
They don't see me standing there going, ugh,
Self-deprecating. Yeah.
right. You
And
know,
I have three boys, and it's the same for me. I've made sure to let them see what a curvy, full-figured woman looks like. I'm not thin, I'm not fat, I'm just me, I'm whatever I am. And they do not ever hear me say anything self-deprecatory about my body, you know. I would say my oldest, he's become into like bodybuilding and stuff. So he's become and he's just always been into being physical in a very specific way that I'm not, you know, like a lot of muscle and being strong. And sometimes he's definitely thrown a few comments at me like, "Mom, you should do this or that or lose weight or, you know, gain this muscle." And I'm just always say, I'm doing me how feels good in my body. And my body has done a lot of cool things like create you, for example. And as long as I feel powerful, you know, but anyways, I don't want to go too far on that, but it is really important for us women to um, practice self-love and show that to our offspring.
yeah, no, absolutely. Um, I've created quite a few different um programs around shadow work, and because it's easy to talk about, but it's less easy to actually navigate.
I appreciate you saying that because it's very real. What do some of these, and in just a moment you can share where they can find those, but what do they tend to entail? I should have asked that earlier. Like, what does shadow work for you that you guide? Is it like journaling? Like, what are some of the experiences with that?
So, I mean, one of the things I wish everybody would do just to start their shadow work is to create a timeline. Just from the day, the year you were born, just draw out a line and put every year. You can start there and realize where there's gaps. Do some research, be a journalist for yourself and just okay, and this year I was this age, even if it's your newborn baby, where were your parents? What world were you born into?
Right.
Right? Like what was
Right.
happening in the world? What,
It makes a
religion?
huge difference. Like you're just brand spanking new and that's great, but you're born into storylines and stressors and experiences, or maybe ease. Some people have ease in their life and children are born into that. But what you're actually born right into, is it going to be a huge part of your story and what becomes your experience?
Yeah, and that was what I really realized when I was doing my own memoir writing is at first I started off writing things that I thought would be interesting, right? Like I was
Like if
military.
other people were going to read it, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Or
I
like
was
if there was an audience present?
yes. I was like,
Okay.
I'll write my deployment story. I
Okay.
turned 21 in Iraq. That's interesting. People
Yeah.
would want to hear about that.
Yeah.
And that's when it was through those stories that I gained this epiphany of, wow, this is a tool. Wow, this is teaching me a lot. And it was when I was getting ready to I was trying to decide to fully leave my marriage and get a divorce, and I just was battling against myself. And so I started writing that story. And what I realized was what did I learn? Oh my goodness, I have no self-worth. And I
Wow.
was like, why? Why do I not have any self-worth? Oh, if
And
my
here you are, this
parents
like
loved
badass military babe, like
me.
in Iraq. It's like, how can those possibly go together? No self-worth, but like,
Yeah, I was like, why would I have such low? I mean, my mom loved me. Like I had family, I had friends, like I had people who loved me. Like why like what do I have to not feel worthy?
right,
And I realized I had to start at the beginning. And when I started writing, it just kind of naturally happened. I wasn't writing my story. I was writing my parents' story. I was writing the world that I was born into.
right.
And by understanding the dynamic of my arrival, I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
this came with me." This is generational, and that's when I started, and I can we could do a whole nother
yeah,
podcast on epigenetics.
yeah. Actually, we are going to kind of wind it down. But what I wanted to say is bring it back to that you're going to be sharing this really powerful session called Shedding Old Skins, the spiritual power of shadow work to reclaim your truth at the Freedom Era Summit that's coming up at the end of September, September 26th through 28th. Links will be dropped below. Um, and can you give us just a little smidge of what that will involve in that session, that presentation, just a little taste?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm really, really excited about this. And thank you for the nudge for creating a concise version of this. I think it's going to be really lovely and really helpful.
Yeah.
But I'm going to kind of go into a little more depth, obviously, into what shadow work is and who Carl Jung is, the father of shadow work, and a
Right.
little bit more. We touched lightly on the yogic philosophy of Svadhyaya and talk about the ancient history of this, just a hint of that. And
Mhm.
then that kind of psychological roots of. And then we're going to look at our stories, particularly as women. We'll dive deeper into very common stories that women tell themselves and
Perfect.
how to write them. And I'm going to be giving you very easy first steps of
Perfect.
some journaling, some mirror work, even somatic awareness. And then we're going to do a guided practice. There's going to be meditation involved. Um, and then what it
It's
means to
going to be power packed.
Yes, it is. And then and then we're going to go into integration and what it means to start actually embodying things and
Yes.
moving forward,
Rewiring.
right? I
Hmm.
don't want to ever leave. I want every person that comes into this to leave feeling more courageous,
Yes.
more capable of living a life with clarity and confidence and self-love.
Thank
Um,
you for pointing that out because that's really the purpose. It's not just to bring women who are in identity shifts and self-liberation. It's about then what do I look like on the other side? And hopefully women leave with some unshakable self-worth. That's the goal, that deep self-love, that unshakable self-worth. So thank you for pointing that out because I'm not sure if I point out the goals, the outcome enough. The Freedom Era Summit is for women to find their truth, open their voice, find who they are and not who they were told to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so I want you to come in and leave almost the same way, you come into a yoga class and you're all tense and tight. When
Yes.
you leave this workshop,
Perfect.
you will leave calmer, more collected, and with a sense of courage. Like it's time. I'm gonna stand up for myself. I'm gonna make change, and now I feel capable of doing it.
That's awesome. Well, can you share with everyone where they can find you for anything that they might want to get with you about now in advance? Any of your
Yeah.
wonderful services, yoga, shadow work already?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a holistic wellness community that is all online. I'm kind of pretty nomadic. 9 states, 5 countries. I've traveled all over the place with the military, and I'm currently in Charleston, South Carolina, but I know that I'm gonna keep moving. So I wanted to build an online community that I could pour
Cool.
myself into. And that's the Caim Circle. But the best way to find me, my website is www.the circle.com. And the my social is at Jessa, Jessa Frances with an E, Frances. So those are the best places to
Great.
visit the website to connect with me on social. Just find me, send me a message, you
Yeah.
book a free 30-minute call, let's chat. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and we have the links below. So, Bessa, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and heart with us today. And I'm so excited to hear your presentation for the Freedom Era Summit. I appreciate you
Thank
coming on
you.
today. I'm Jamie Roth, and this has been another Intuitive Encounters conversation. Thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you at the summit and right back here on the channel. You can get with me at www.intuitiveencounters.com. I'm struggling. Real life, people. Hold on.